Welcome to Module 5, Teaching Letters with Purpose. The very beginning of your phonics journey is one of the most important phases in early literacy instruction, letter learning, and letter sound learning. Before students can decode, blend, segment, or read connected text, they must first develop strong alphabetic foundations. This module will show you exactly how to build those foundations with clarity, consistency, and confidence. In Module 3, you learn the core routines that make up effective phonics instruction. In Module 4, you explored the structure of your literacy block, your scope and sequence, and the resources that support your instruction. Now in Module 5, we're going to zoom in on the very first part of the scope and sequence, letter learning, and walk step by step through how to teach each letter using a predictable, research-aligned routine. As a reminder, this module pairs with the Kickstart to Phonics Teacher's Guide, a free guide you can get online at my Teachers Pay Teacher store. This guide serves as a companion for these modules. The link to the guide is in the comments below. Before we dive into the routines and lesson structure for letter learning, we need to start with something foundational, organization. Letter learning moves quickly. You will introduce a new letter almost every day, so having your materials organized and accessible is essential for smooth, effective instruction. The Kickstart to Phonics Guide emphasizes that teachers should not be digging through bins or searching for materials during instruction. Instead, everything should be ready, visible, and within reach. To teach the letter learning phase, you'll want to gather the following resources. If you're going to use my letter learning curriculum, you're going to want to purchase that in my Teacher Pay Teacher store, and the link is in the comments below. Also, you're going to want whiteboards, dry erase markers, erasers. Those things will be used for daily dictation or letter formation practice. Poppets are helpful when we are doing segmenting. Magnetic letters or tiles are helpful for when we're doing word work and word building. Having plastic sleeves for some of the resources in my curriculum for hands-on practice with letter formation and other activities. You'll want either zipper pouches or small baskets to help keep materials organized for your whole group or your small group instruction. For when you are organizing the entire curriculum, I like to use rolling carts or large containers like your scrapbooking containers. And each container or each drawer would be labeled with a set of letters. So I purposely make my curriculum in groups of 5 to 6 letters. So for example, if you use a rolling cart, one drawer might be for the letter M, S, T, B, and A. Or if you use a scrapbooking box, the same thing. You might need graphene tiles for a magnetic board if you don't have access to an electronic version of a graphene board. Graphene boards are helpful when you're modeling word chains and word building activities so that all of your students can see what you're doing. I do have graphene tiles that are also linked below. So why does this organization and the materials matter? So we want transitions to be very smooth through phonics instruction. It's very quick and fast-paced, so we need students to be engaged. So we need to be able to have our materials ready to go so students can focus on the instruction. Also, you're going to want them organized so that you can quickly pull whenever it's time for your small groups. This organization becomes even more important as you transition into the phonics instruction that I'll discuss in Module 6. It's also important to set up one of the most essential tools in your classroom, your sound wall. Unlike a word wall, which is organized alphabetically, a sound wall is organized by speech sounds or phonemes and how we produce them. This makes it a perfect match for structured literacy and the routines you'll use throughout this module. Your sound wall becomes the anchor for everything. Students learn about letters, sounds, and spelling patterns, not just during letter learning, but all the way through Module 6 and the full phonics scope and sequence. So why does a sound wall matter? A sound wall helps students connect speech to print. It helps them understand how sounds are produced. It anchors their learning to mouth formations and articulations with the visuals on the sound wall. It helps build independence during reading and writing. It strengthens encoding and decoding accuracy. It helps develop a deeper understanding of the alphabetic principle. During letter learning, the sound wall helps students understand how each letter sound is made. During the rest of my scope and sequence, starting with short vowels and beyond, it becomes a reference for digraphs, blends, vowel teams, arc-controlled vowels, and diphthongs, and more. This is not a tool you use for a few weeks. It's a tool you will use all year long. During the letter knowledge phase, you will introduce the mouth formation of each new letter. You'll add a letter card to the sound wall. You'll refer to the wall during visual and auditory drills. You'll use it during dictation. You'll encourage students to use it during writing. You'll model for students how they can check the wall for an unsure or when they're unsure of a sound. This helps students build strong habits early, habits they will rely on throughout the entire phonics scope and sequence. Now that your materials are organized and your sound wall is ready, let's walk through the structure of a letter learning lesson. This routine is the foundation of Module 5 and is fully aligned to the letter learning lesson plan template shown in your guide. The lesson plan comes in two formats. You can see on the left, that's a daily format, and the one on the right is a weekly format. Your lesson plan includes 5 major components, and each one appears in a specific place on the template so teachers can follow the routine with clarity and consistency. At the top, you'll do cumulative review, then you'll go into explicit teaching of a new letter. Then an optional step would be if you are to teach a high frequency word that day, then you're always going into connected to text, and then you'll do dictation, and you will come up with some new or next steps for your group or your class. Now let's look at each part a little more deeply. Cumulative review is the warm-up portion of your lesson. It is fast, predictable, and designed to strengthen automaticity with previously taught skills. You will not use every activity every day. Instead, you will choose the routines that best prepare students for the new learning ahead. Here is a breakdown of each activity, what it includes, and why the teacher might choose to use it. The first box is phonemic awareness warm-up. This is a quick oral routine that strengthens students' ability to hear and manipulate sounds without print. What it can include is you can do activities with identifying beginning sounds. You can do oral blending activities with letters students have already learned. You can do oral segmenting activities, again, with letters that students have already learned. You can do same and different sound discrimination activities. You can do a game called Odd One Out, where you give them 2 to 3 words, and they have to decide which word doesn't begin with the same sound as the others. You can do syllable tapping. Those are all different activities or ideas that you can do when it comes to phonemic awareness warm-up. So why might you choose to do a phonemic awareness warm-up? Students need more practice hearing sounds before connecting them to print. So students might struggle with isolating beginning sounds, so we might do more of that. You may want to warm up their auditory system for listening. Students may not be ready for blending drills yet, so you're going to want to do more work with orally blending and segmenting words. Another option to choose from is the visual drill, and I spoke about this drill back in Module 3. This is where a student sees a letter and they say the sound immediately. And of course, you would only use letters that they have already learned. Another activity would be the auditory drill. And again, I spoke of this one back in Module 3 as well. And this is kind of the opposite of the visual drill, where the teacher says a sound and the students would identify the letter. So the students could write the letter, point to the letter, and again, it's just letters that they have already learned. Another activity would be the ABC tap and say, and there's an example of that on the right side of the screen. I have many of these in my curriculum, and they are organized by the letters and how they're introduced. So every couple of letters, I have a new tap and say available. So with this, it's supposed to build fluency with letter sounds. So the students would go through the tap and say, point to each letter and say the sound. You can make it into a game where you time them, see how far they get, or they can put chips over top of the ones after they say it to see if they fill up the whole board. Another option would be in your letter learning phase, you are teaching a small bank of high frequency words in order for them to read small, very short, decodable text. So words like the and C and A and I. And so if you've already introduced some of those words, you can bring those back in and review them so that they can get more practice with spelling them and reading them. Another option is to reread letter books. So every time you introduce a new letter, and you'll see this in the next step or the next couple steps, you will have a letter book that you can use, and you can pull those back out and have the kids reread some of the letter books. And finally, you could also do a blending drill. And a blending drill would be taking all of the letters that they have already learned and laying them in front of the children into words and practicing and modeling how we blend sounds together. So you might be asking yourself, well, which one should I do, and why would I choose certain ones over other ones? So you definitely want to go with student needs. So for example, if kids are having more difficulty isolating sounds or orally blending sounds, you're going to want to do more phonemic awareness warm-ups. In the beginning of the year, when you're early on in the letter learning phase, you're going to do more visual and auditory drills, where when they get more and more letters and they're learning how to blend, you might move into blending drill. Also, you're going to want to use observation data. So what letters are you noticing students are having difficulty forming and remembering the sounds? Those are letters you're going to want to bring back up into that cumulative review. Also, you want to think about your letter or your lesson pacing. So one day you might be introducing a new high frequency word, and one day you may not. So you may have more time to do cumulative review on a day where you're not doing a high frequency word. And also, you want to always look at your classroom energy or your small group energy. What routines are going to keep kids engaged, and how can I make these routines more engaging to my students? So the goal is not to do everything. It's to choose what's best going to prepare kids for the new learning of that day. The next step in the lesson plan is explicit teaching of a new letter. You will follow 8 steps. This routine has 10, but in this part of the lesson, you will only do 1 through 8. These steps ensure students learn the letter's name, shape, sound, mouth formation, how you form it with strokes, and how you connect it to meaning, how you make connections through visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and articulatory pathways. So here's a breakdown of each step and why the teacher might emphasize, or what they might emphasize in that step. So the first step is to name the letter. Basically, in this whole step, you're going to introduce the letter by name. So you're going to be showing them the letter or just saying the letter to them at this point. Step 2, you're going to show a letter card. So my sound wall comes with letter cards for all of them, and also you have a sound deck card with letter cards. You're going to show them the letter cards so they can visually see what the letter looks like in uppercase and lowercase. You might also pull out the ABC chart that comes with the curriculum and show them that on the ABC chart. In number 3, you're going to say, this is the letter, this is what the letter looks like in uppercase, this is what the letter looks like in lowercase. And then in number 4, you're going to tell them that the letter spells what? So the letter A spells the sound ah, and you're going to practice that. You're going to practice that in number 5 too, making the sound. You're going to possibly pull out mirrors. You're going to show them the sound wall card with the mouth picture, and you're going to make sure all the kids are saying that sound properly with their tongue, lips, and teeth and voice in the proper position. And then in number 6, you're going to show them how to write the uppercase version of the letter and the lowercase version of the letter. And in my curriculum, I have letter formation cards for every letter. I like to use the sky, grass, and dirt method. And there's also practice sheets for all of the students to use. And in the ABC book, there's extra practice for letter formation as well. And also there's even a handwriting workbook in my curriculum as well. And then in number 7, the student's going to practice writing the letter. So more practice. Number 6, you're modeling. Number 7, you are practicing. So this is where you might pull out the resources I just mentioned and have them practice maybe in a dry erase sleeve writing the letter, or if you are lucky enough to have sand trays, or you can use whiteboards, or you can use table writing where they just practice on their table as well. And then in number 8 is where you're going to stop the explicit teaching for now, and that's where you're going to do some phonemic awareness work with this letter. And I have picture cards in the curriculum, and you can pull those picture cards out and talk about beginning sounds, words and pictures with beginning sounds of that letter. And then the next step, this is an optional step. So sometimes you need to introduce a pre-reader heart word. So students have the words they need to read in that letter book later in the lesson, which comes very soon. So these words build a small but powerful bank of high frequency words that help students access the short text right from the start. So in this example, you might say, today we need to teach the word the, and we're going to teach it using the same heart word routine from Module 3 that I shared before. And you're going to talk about the parts that can't be decoded. And at this point in the lesson, students, or in this part in the scope and sequence, students do not know the TH sound yet, and the E makes an odd sound in the word the. So both parts are going to have to be known by heart. And you're going to practice this using that routine and giving them time to write it, spell it, and read it in a sentence. And then you're going to go into the next step, which is the connected to text. And this is where you go back to that routine for learning a letter, and you're going to do steps 9 and 10. And this helps students connect the new letter and sound to real books. This is where students begin to see how the letter works inside text, and it strengthens their early reading behaviors. So there are 2 things you're going to do. Number 9 is you're going to first find the letter in books. So you can use the letter book that you have and just have them preview it and find the letter. You can give them other books that you have very right at your fingertips and find the letter in those books. Or if they have book boxes or a basket of books that they've already looked at, you can give them that and have them just quickly find the letter around in books or around the room. And then you're going to go into step 10, which is reading and completing the letter book. So in that one, each letter has a book in my curriculum, and the book is very scaffolded with lots of support at the beginning, little dots for finger pointing, for tracking. It has picture support for words that are more complex and students are not expected to be able to decode yet. Like in that example on the screen with a kangaroo, they should not be able to decode that word yet. So the picture is there for them. But other words that are there are words that they have either could decode because they've learned all those letters, or they're high frequency words from that small bank of words that they are learning throughout. And I have strategically mapped those words out in my scope and sequence so they appear at certain times and you teach them at certain times. And the final step of the letter learning lesson plan is dictation. And the purpose of this is to really enforce that letter sound knowledge and handwriting and encoding. So it's the final step of this lesson, and it gives students immediate practice in connecting sound and letter to writing. So there are a couple options that you have. You can have them spell the sound. So you could think about all of the sounds that you've already taught the children, and you could say, I want you to spell the sound ah. I want you to spell the sound mm. And they could just do spelling the sound, or you could say, write the letter A. You could do it opposite. Say it by its name, say it's by its sound. And then also you could always incorporate review sounds as well. And in the back of each letter book is a dictation page where they could do that in your their little mini book, or you could do it on a whiteboard or dry erase board as well. So now in this section, I want to walk you through a sample letter learning lesson and explain the instructional decisions behind each part. So this will help you understand not just what to do, but why I chose certain things. So in this part of the lesson, this is the cumulative review part. So this lesson is for learning the letter A. So in my scope and sequence, they learn M, then they learn S, then they learn T, then they learn B, and then they learn A. And that's the end of my first group of letters. So in this particular lesson, I have decided to pick 3 of the cumulative review, and I have little boxes next to them and a little spot for you to write notes so you can see everything in red is what I would have written on the lesson plan template. So I decided with visual and auditory drill, they would do the M, S, T, and B. We would do a visual drill on that and an auditory drill. I'm not including A yet because we're about to learn the letter A. And then I'm also going to do a tap and say with M, S, T, and B. So I strategically have one of those in place in my curriculum. And then we will do that to help with fluency. And so we're just building fluency with sounds and letters in the cumulative review. So I selected all of that to just get them prepared and build their confidence for the lesson. In explicit teaching, I'm going to follow the steps 1 through 8 in my routine of learning a letter. So I'm going to name the letter, I'm going to do the letter card, the mouth formation, the letter formation, and I'm going to use my beginning sound cards with all of that. And remember, this is going to be for the letter A. And then I do have a high frequency word that I am going to teach today. The high frequency word is C. I'm going to do that because coming up in our letter book is the word C, and they have seen the word C before, but I just want to reinforce it and teach it. And obviously the S is going to be the decodable part because they've learned that already, but the EE is going to be the heart part, the part they need to know by heart. So I'm going to go through those procedures to teach that word, C. And then in my connected to text, we're going to look in books that they have for the letter A. They're going to quickly find them. I'm only going to spend like a minute. I'm going to give them a minute word hunt to find those. And then we're going to go into the letter A book and we're going to read that book and do the writing activities in that book. There's that handwriting piece in that book. There's also a beginning part of the book where we can do some blending together. And I can choose to do this book in a couple ways. I can chorally read it with them. We can do echo reading, and then we can do partner reading with that. So I have to kind of make a decision about where my children are and what they can handle. And for this particular book, we're going to do choral reading of the story. And then the final piece is the dictation piece. So I'm going to have them spell the sound of those 5 letters. Those are the 5 letters that they have. They just learned A, they learned the other 4. So I'm giving them that review for that. And we're going to do that in the back of our letter book on those lines. And then as I'm observing the kids during the lesson, I'm going to be taking notes on the next step. So I might be making some notes there about what I'm going to do tomorrow or the next time I see them in small group. So in closing, this brings us to the end of Module 5. And in this module, you learned how to organize your materials, how to set up and use your sound wall, how to teach letters throughout a consistent 8-step routine. You also learned that I introduce pre-reader high-frequency words and connect learning to meaningful text. You also saw how to use dictation and observations to guide your next steps. So letter learning is the foundation of everything that comes next. When students master letters through clear routines and multisensory practice, they are fully prepared to enter the rest of my phonics scope and sequence with confidence. If you like ready-to-use lesson plans, letter books, picture cards, routines, and materials, my complete letter learning curriculum is available in my TPT store, and the link is in the comments below. And don't worry, other components of the curriculum, especially those used for independent practice, will be covered in Module 8 so you can see exactly how they fit into your literacy block. Because there's a lot in that curriculum, and some of it I did not cover in this module, but I will in Module 8. In the next module, Module 6, we're going to move into the phonics instruction, the scope and sequence that begins with short vowels and moves into the more complex patterns. And I'm going to show you that lesson plan and what that looks like and how we follow the same types of routines to learn those new phonics skills and work to build strong, confident readers.